tell Michael Beam that he won't be going in till the second closed? Okay. Because he'll end up being in the other one. The main. Okay. Just literally get out of this. Did you do that one too?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're both done.
Oh, I didn't do.
The screen one. Yeah.
Call the work session of the Isabella County Board of Commissioners to refer to standard education.
States of America. Which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Here.
Commissioner Embry, Commissioner Jazinski, Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Slaney,
Here.
Commissioner Hope.
Here.
All present, Mr. Chairman, except for Commissioner Embry.
Thank you. Clerk, and Commissioner Embry did let us know that he'd be able to attend this evening. So next up would be approval of the agenda. Start up with general comments. Under presentations and special reports, we'll have a report on the annual comprehensive financial report. And then a report by the administrator controller. Under appointments to boards and commissions, we'll make an appointment to the Great Lakes Bay, Michigan Workforce Development Board. And then committee reports, Finance and Administration Committee.
Finance Administration Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
The Criminal Justice Affairs Committee is also, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Human Resources and Public Works Committee.
Public Works Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
We have no intergovernmental affairs, no administrator controller issues, no unfinished business. Under new business, we have several Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribes bring 2% requests. And then following those, we will have a couple of closed sessions. And then general public comment, announcements, and then adjournment. Anything we'd like to add to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt the agenda with the following three changes. First change will be adding prosecuting attorney request under the 2% listing. The second change would be to combine the two closed sessions into one, since they deal with different bargaining units, but they still are protected under state statute. And then the third one is that we move general public comments before closed session.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda with those three changes?
Support.
And moved and supported, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Need a second?
Yep.
Aye.
Yes. We have an agenda, and that will bring us to general public comments. Anyone for general?
Hello, everyone. I'm Clarissa Philhart from Wise Township.
I was here in January and spoke to all of you regarding my concerns with the Michigan Bureau of Elections. I sent you a voicemail, Terry Hutchinson, and never got a response. On January 4th, I sent all of you an email on January 5th and never got a response. On March 7th, I received this affidavit from Sheriff Darley in Berry County. He is in possession of information that I have received from the Bureau of Elections regarding their inability to maintain records. He's also received the statements of Wise Township residents regarding our software attempting to connect outside of our township hall. On March 7th, 2024, at approximately 10:45 a.m., I, Sheriff Darley, received a subpoena for my law enforcement file number 21-2216 from DJ Hilson's office. The subpoena demanded that I appear at 1200 North Telegraph Road, Pontiac, Michigan, with my law enforcement files with less than 24-hour notice and not time to appear. My office currently has an ongoing investigation as it relates to Dominion CEO John Polotz, Dominion employees and contractors, Jocelyn Benson, Dana Nessel, J. Alex Calderman, and others. My department is in possession of sensitive documents as part of an ongoing investigation involving Dominion employees. These Dominion employees directed and tasked Serbian foreign nationals to remotely access the Michigan election system. I am not willing to compromise my investigation by providing my entire file. I am attaching to this affidavit several emails to demonstrate to this honorable court that this is a very serious ongoing investigation. The emails in my file corroborate evidence contained in expert reports in my possession. These expert reports prove foreign access to the Michigan election equipment prior to certification of the November 3rd, 2020 election. In addition to the Dominion emails, I am in possession of emails from J. Alex Calderman, SOS, Jocelyn Benson's expert witness on the Antrim County civil litigation. The email from J. Alex Calderman offers to help the Dominion employees, the same ones tasking the foreign nationals to enter the Michigan election system prior to certification, by rebutting statements made by President Trump on television. J. Alex Calderman failed to report and disclose the serious remote security breaches to the election equipment identified by experts on the Antrim County case. And he concealed and hid significant evidence that is addressed in the Halderman rebuttal expert reports. Further, he has incorrectly dismissed the vote shifting that occurred in the Antrim County, blaming the local clerk for human error, when in fact, the correct and corroborating vote shifting explanation is explained in the rebuttal, corroborated with Dominion emails. I intend to file a motion to quash the subpoena attached, as well as a civil lawsuit against the Muskegon County prosecutor, DJ Hilson, for attempting to usurp my investigation. DJ Hilson worked with AG Dana Nessel and successfully buried the Muskegon County fraud that is now under investigation by the FBI. The Muskegon County prosecutor failed to appropriately prosecute as requested by the Muskegon Police. Moreover, this court should know that my office and our central dispatch had our network line go down on March 7th at about 4 a.m. through March 7th until about 5:23. Attorney Lambert has been working for me and my office since December of 2020 and I believe this subpoena is an attempt to obstruct and delay my very serious investigation. Signed, Darleaf. I want to point out that it was November of 2022 that Wise Township software made secure and unsecure attempts to connect outside of our township. Additionally, the Michigan Bureau of Elections cannot or will not provide me with the records from that date for Wise Township or Lincoln Township, which you represent, Mr. Jelizinski. Clerk Lux has reached out to the Bureau. They did not respond. My township clerk has reached out to the Bureau. They did not respond. Stephanie Lambert was in Washington, D.C. yesterday, providing testimony against Dominion voting systems, which Isabella County uses. There is a serious concern here about the election systems. I was told by Chris Embry in July that I was gaslighting. This is not gaslighting. This is honest, factual information, and I expect that someone respond to the concerns. Ignoring my emails, sitting and looking at me like I have nothing important to say is not acceptable. MCL 168798B says we can do hand counts. If the tabulators seem impracticable, there is another alternative. If the budget is an issue, getting rid of this 9 days of early voting with electronic equipment would be a good way to cut costs. Does anyone have anything? Any ideas? I have brought this information. Since I was here last, I did another audit. The Michigan Bureau of Elections lacks 61 people in my township in their records. My clerk has them reported as having voted, and the Michigan Bureau of Elections does not. That is from November 3rd of 2020. The records from the Bureau of Elections do not match what we send digitally, and I have the evidence. I'm confused why a detective would come from Berry County to get my information, and yet no one here finds it important. No thoughts? No. Mr. Jelizinski, you sent an email on January 26th saying that there was no election interference. I am giving you information that proves it.
Ms. Phil, as you know, public comment is not a
Okay, so
conversation.
when I call on the phone and I don't get response, what do I do? When I send you emails and I don't get response, what do I do?
You can talk to us after the meeting. But I'd let you go maybe on your 3 minutes. I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap it up.
I expect that I will hear from the commission within a 7-day period. That is fair. Outlining something that you are willing to do about my concerns. Please. And I am raising my voice because this is the 5th time I've been here. And this is too many times to get nothing in return.
Thank you. Anyone else for general public comment?
She expects us to do.
Okay. Seeing no one else for general public comment, we'll move into presentations and special reports. Item A is the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report and supplementary information to financial statements, federal awards, Jason Salzwedel. Pardon me? Salzwedel. All yours, sir.
All right. So in front of you. Yeah, do you want me to share? What's this up? Okay. So my name is Jason Salzwedel. I'm a manager with Raymond. We conducted the audit for the county for the year ended September 30th, 2023. Some of you should have 4 different items. One's going to be a printout of the presentation behind me. And there's another stapled letter. This is our communication to the board. It kind of outlines our responsibilities for the audit as well as the county's responsibilities, as well as any recommendations we might have in there to further strengthen internal controls for the county. There's going to be 2 bound documents, a small one. The small one is basically the federal expenditures summary for the year and the compliance related to that. So we audit the grant expenditures that the county has, and that's our report on that. And the very large document is the annual comprehensive financial report. So all this information, we help the county prepare it, but really everything in here except for about 4 pages is the county's information. All the county's information for the year ended September 30th, 2023. So management is responsible for the fair representation of the financial statements, design of internal control, and making those records available for us. Again, we assist with the preparation of it, but ultimately it's management's responsibility for everything that's in here. Our responsibility is to issue opinions. So that's what, if you go in here to, once you get past the introduction report on page 13, that's our opinion letter in relation to the audit. We perform our audit procedures to obtain reasonable rather than absolute assurance. If we were to look at everything to give you absolute assurance, we would be here for forever and never get anything done. So we perform our procedures based on professional standards to provide an opinion on the financial statements. We issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That is the best opinion we can provide. We, just a side note, we did not audit component units, the road commission, transportation commission, the care facility. Their information, because they are component units of the county, is in the report, and everything in there is based on those separate audits that another auditor performed. At the top of these slides, you can see there's a page reference to where if you want to get more information, that's going to be in the big bound book here. So we've kind of summarized the general fund balance sheet. Again, this is as of September 30th, 2023. So the general fund had approximately $19 million in cash and restricted cash at that time, 2.4 million of receivables, which is kind of broken up into several different buckets, primarily taxes, and that's due from the state, some lease receivables. Due from other funds, 3.6, that's just other funds within the county that the general fund had, loaned some or, provided some funds for that are due back to the general fund. Advance to component unit, that represents an amount that was loaned to or provided to the drain commission. Liabilities, you have accounts payable, accrued payroll, at the end of the year. And then unearned revenue of 3.2 million, that represents advanced funds that have been received for ARPA grant that the county has not used as of September 30th. And then at the bottom, if the county was to use basically all of its assets to pay off all of its liabilities, fund balance would be what's left over. That's further broken down into several categories. Non-spendable, primarily the advance to the drain commission and prepaids and inventory, so can't really spend that money because it's tied up in other places. Committed, the board has designated some funds for the sheriff's office and corrections facility. And then you have assigned, that's again, there's various buckets, and if you go into the footnotes, there's more detail on what that assigned fund balance is. A big portion of it is related to next year's budget. And then unassigned would be basically what's left over at the end of the year. If you used up everything else, unassigned for whatever the board, the county teams that it needs to use this for. Next slide. This is general fund revenues and transfers in budget. So you'll see a final budget, actual budget, and then whether or not the county was over or under that budget in that third column there. And again, the pie chart kind of just gives a visual representation of the revenues for the general fund. And when you're looking at this in the financial statements, the top, if you look in the financial statement page reference on 40 and 41, the top section is going to have your revenues, and those transfers in are going to be in the other financing sources on the second page of the actual budget statement in here. So the variances here, taxes, you were over budget on that, which is a good thing. You collected more than what you anticipated. You know, there was some increases in property values over last year compared to what you initially anticipated. And then the other bucket at the bottom, the over budget item there related to increases in interest earned in comparison to what was initially budgeted there. So interest rates have been going up. I was able to collect more on its investments than what we initially had budgeted for. Next slide. Again, visual representation of expenditures and transfers out. All of the items were under budget. A lot of those relate to capital projects that might not have occurred that were planned, as well as some staff vacancies. If you look at the next slide, kind of summarize the revenues, transfers in, expenditures, transfers out. To get what was the net change in fund balance. Initially, the county had budgeted for an increase in fund balance of 5 million. The action over 8 million, showing a positive variance 3.1 million compared to budget. If you look at unassigned fund balance at the end of the year, that equates to 25% of 1 year's expenditures. So that's a pretty good metric to have. The Governmental Finance Officers Association, they recommend, at least 2 months of expenditures. That'd be about 17% roughly. So it ultimately depends on what's the county's, plans for future expenditures and where that unassigned, you guys want to see that at. Next slide. Yeah.
Is that over expenditure of the fiscal 23 year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm doing the math in my head, thinking that's not 20%. Current. That's why our current budget number is inflated by suspectable. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, your next year's budget is using some fund balance to cover that. So yeah. Looking at the next slide here is kind of a 5-year trend of where fund balance has been. You'll see a pretty sizable increase from 22 to 23. A big portion of that relates to recognition of ARPA funds to cover general government services last fiscal year.
Before we skip to that.
Yeah.
And we go to page 103, because that's where it talks about that kind of a little over $10 million that was to the assigned. I want to make sure that the board understands where that's assigned to. So that's all broken out on page 103. All of those components of fund balance have a detail to them here. So just for those who don't have the audit maybe in front of them, just over 1.5 million for the jail bond payment that we have to make. We know what the budgeted for. We want to make sure that some of our fund balance is set aside to make that payment. So that's in there. We've got $2 million as we always have for working capital. The cash we don't spend because we need it to operate. Just over 1.1 million for vested benefits. That's our compensated absences. If everyone left the county tomorrow, that's what we would owe them. It could be a little more from September 30. That's what we owe them if they left on. District health capital, central dispatch capital, those are monies we set aside due to language expenses on those buildings. Claims liability, almost $300,000 is what MMRB says we should set aside based on the current litigation we have pending. For technology, just over 18,000 for, there's part of court revenues that get assigned to court technology, and those earmarked for court technology pieces. And then the big one in here is the 5.2 million. That is, thank you, and Melissa for explaining so well on committee. That is what the current budget used of fund balance to balance our budget. So you have to assign some of your fund balance to pay what you said it was. So all told, that's over $10 million of fund balance assigned. I just wanted to, because when you look at that graph you just had, you think,
Yeah.
wow, things are going really well for the county. But remember, we've got a plan for those dollars. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, absolutely, that's a good point, because like you said, you have 20 million there, but you spend all that next year, you're back to where you were, in 2022, basically, or maybe even slightly under that. So the next slide here is again kind of a current year and then a look back of the total pension liability. Plan net position, meaning the assets to pay that pension liability, which results down to the net pension liability. So these are the numbers that are reported in the county's reports for the fiscal year end. They actually represent the values as of December 31st of that prior year. So there's a little bit of a lag between when the pension amount liability is determined versus when it gets reported in the county's report. Nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly normal. So just when you're looking at these liabilities and plan net position numbers, that's really December 31st, 2022. So
That was a pretty low spot.
yeah, so for 2022, if you look at plan net position, there was almost 44 million there, and then that 2023 number was down to 37.8 million. In that time period for between 2021 and 2022, there was a $4.8 million loss in investments on the plan. So hopefully that number has come up, from 2023 time now.
If I remember right, we're at 12% return that year in 2022. So the next picture will look a lot better. It's
Yeah.
not due to corruption or anything nefarious, let's say.
Right.
Actually, can we just hit that a little bit on page 110 there real quick? Just, I know that's one of the problems that we have, the upcoming budget problem is that, like you said, there's almost a $7 million difference. We trend that back from 2016, which was last time was at 63. It's been pretty steady till this last year, like you said, because of the Bears had the big loss in there. So if you remember at one time, I think when I first got on board there, they wanted us their investments were always pretty good, so I don't know what happened there, so. I'm hoping next year that number will adjust. Drastically.
Well, it's important though, so MERS are. Is assumed to be 7%. So when they have a negative 12% year, that's a 19% swing.
Hopefully they made adjustments in their addition, so I'm hoping that number will change, it'll make our budget look a little different, if you can track it for the last. 216 was the last time that there was that 63%. Pretty steady, pretty consistent. So much surprise in this part of the budget. The three things that. But the budget was to go with is on the Polish, so.
And there's good and bad news in that, MERS does smooth those when they happen, because we couldn't afford a negative 12% hit or 19% hit in any one year. So MERS does take that and they smooth that, I think, over 10 years. And so one,
5 or 10.
now 5, maybe now 5. So you don't feel that whole impact all at once, but we will feel that impact over 5 years. But that's layered on the last 5 years. It's just very smooth that. Yeah. So, we're not alone in this. Important conversation.
That's a good point.
The next slide is just a kind of a chart of the actuary determined contribution to the pension plan. So MERS, they determine how much the county should be contributed to the plan each year, to meet the requirements to pay those, pension payments out to retirees. You'll see over the past years, the county has met that requirement each year. So that kind of summarizes what we had today for the just focusing on the general fund for the most part, the financial statements. This is a high-level overview of the federal grants, which again, that's a small packet here. In fiscal year ending 9/30/23, the county expended $26 million in federal awards. The two major programs that we audited was the community facilities loans and grants, which that represents the loan used to finance the correction and sheriff's office facility as well. And the other program was the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, which has the ARPA grants. We issued an unmodified opinion on compliance in relation to those programs. So again, that's the best opinion we can provide. We didn't find any non-compliance with the programs that we offered. During the audit, we did have some audit adjustments that were proposed and posted in order for us to provide that unmodified opinion. So I know the county is working on correcting those concerns that we had noted in relation to that. And then in these other stapled letter, we do have a few recommendations for opportunities to strengthen the controls. Not anything that necessarily we thought was a major concern. It was just some items that we thought the county potentially could do differently that might make things be either better or, like I said, strengthen those controls. That's we were talking about compensated absences liability. There's a new GASB statement coming out, which will be for fiscal year 2025, which will modify the way the county calculates that liability. So it might change a decent amount, because not only do you have to look at what would be paid out at termination, you also have to look at what's expected for employees to use. So you're probably going to have to modify the way that's being calculated
Are you saying anticipate usage?
Yeah, so you really gotta look at kind of like historical data, of what's been used. And develop expectations for what you think is gonna happen, and kind of estimate it that way. I know we probably have some webinars that if you wanted to, when you have, some free time to check out, you can look at that, but again, you got some time, so maybe that's a concern a little bit later for you.
But next year's audit? No, fiscal 25.
25, so not this fiscal year, but it'll be, next. That's everything I have for today.
Just how often does GASB change the rule like that we just saw? Yes. You never know.
Yeah, well. They're at like, that's 101, you say. I don't know the exact number, but so in 2021, the county had GASB 87. Or sorry, 2022 GASB 87, which was the lead standard. 2023 was subscription liabilities, that was this year, and then in 2 years, you're gonna have that one. Unfortunately, pretty frequently in the recent years.
Okay.
There was a decent period where there wasn't a lot going on, but they've made up for that. Yeah.
I wanted to point out something, not necessarily a question, Jason, but I'd love to know your thoughts on this. In the big document, your big bound document, there's a letter. Transmit a letter to the board from Melissa and I. It's a pretty standard letter that doesn't change a whole lot every year. But at the end of the letter on page 7, we talk about the Government Finance Officer Association, OA. The award, the certificate of achievement that they give to the county, because our audit conforms to their standards of excellence for that code. Usually this letter will tell you, well, we think that the current version conforms for the certificate of achievement, so we're going to go ahead and apply to the award. We took that part about applying for the award out of the letter because it costs a decent amount of money to actually submit an application to GFOA. Part of what that application involves is work in your audit that is not required. But we do it because the GFOA award requires it, right? And so what do we get for this? We get a little press release and we get the plaque on the wall. Remember? And the board plaques them. I have no idea where they are, but I'm sure someday we'll find those and get those out at our place, right? But my point is, in light of fiscal responsibility, we want to know the board's opinion on continuing to practice of doing more in your audit, and let me explain what the part is. Jason, this is what I'd love your opinion on. I believe the stat section starts on page 179 of the big book. And that stat section is what is required of the GOFA, which would not otherwise be required of us. We don't have for many years assembled that in-house. That work is contracted out to a CPA to do. We're doing it for an award. Okay, and I want you to understand. So please look in the back of your audit when you have that stat section. It's a helpful section. It's 10 years of what's been going on in your county. It's pretty helpful. But it's costing us a lot of money. And we don't have to. So if there's value to you in there, let's continue to apply. Let's continue to do it, whatever. But if there's not, please give us your feedback on if it's one area you could think.
I want to double check, but I think the non-major special revenue fund budget to actual statements wouldn't be required either. But I guess don't quote me on that, but I think that would be another substantial piece that,
Thank you. Trying to make sure the commissioners understand you know, what's in here and what the requirement is to be.
Right, so if you're not submitting it and using a lot of time and effort to prepare everything in there.
I have a question. So you said it's a considerable additional cost to get that last piece in, to get the certificate on the wall and plaque or whatever. Can you give me a ballpark figure of what we're talking about in terms of dollars?
I think it's probably $10,000. What do we do? You think I'm exaggerating a little bit? Up to 1,000, 1,000.
It actually applies.
And then the hourly rates to actually pull the stat section together is.
And it's not, I guess it's just, it's not just the time outside working on it, but we reach out to multiple departments. So it's time on it's to hire additional information every year, at the end of the year. To document, our legalization department, outside reader's office, our complaint agent, it's pretty happy to take it on. Request that or to get it and then update it on Mark, put it in the flood. We know that you're doing too.
Do you want us to quantify it? More than-
No, I think we've got a good idea. It does cost a considerable amount to achieve that. I don't know what, besides the recognition, what other value comes back. At this point in time, when we're looking to balance the budget, it may not be a high priority, at least on from my point of view.
In relation to the certificate, the GFOA also provides comments and recommendations to the presentation of the financial statements, so part of that $1,000 cost is someone, a member, and we have people in our firm that do the reviews and will review the financials and comment. Hey, it looks like this is missing from the report, or, you know, they provide references to the GASB where those, you know, rules should be at, so there is that, but. Normally we take those comments and then make sure that we correct those things if something is noted. That would be the only other piece besides the certificate. The recognition of all the effort going into that.
Any other questions? Just want to point out for the public that audits and budgets are available on the website. If you can, it'll be on the website at some point.
Pretty quick after you adopted or approved it. If you want to take a minute, Chairman, to thank interim deputy administrator controller Melissa Franklin for, I can't even imagine how many years of work involved with the audit. I don't know that I could calculate it.
You go with a lot.
Capitalize, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and I just want to echo that and say thank you to Melissa and Nicole and the rest of the county. That it's a lot of work to go through the audit, and we appreciate everyone's efforts. You know, to help us get this done. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that. Straight.
Try to be brief, I know, but I mentioned, I want to give a shout out, please, I forget, Council of Government, 7 p.m. It's gonna take place at Chippewa Township Hall. Mostly, lately, as many of you are very aware, we've been working with finance commissioners, chairman and Melissa to meet individually with the departments regarding the logic used in our zero-based budgeting exercise. And we really appreciate the honest and frank feedback and dialogue that we're having with leadership about impacts. And what we can collectively do to improve the county. We're trying to have these meetings by your special board meeting, we'll have an amount of the zero-based budget, and we'll have a forecast to discuss with the zero-based budget built in there. Although I don't think it's really gonna be a true goal setting session, I think the goals been set for us to save money and salvage services and support staff. We're working hard to determine the exact cuts that we will need, and working to provide as much notice as possible, of course, to employees who might be impacted. We're coordinating our resources to be at the ready when they're needed from our support from our works and our EMP. Getting those resources coordinated. And working towards forming a communications committee, so we can focus on consistency and nimble messaging about all the changes that we're making. Balance our budget, put in place a sustainable county government structure. So thank you, commissioners, department heads, elected staff, and our partners for offering great suggestions on how we can best move forward. Your IT director, Michelle Ray, has just passed out one such an example of some changes that are being made. If you will remember, in the current budget, you approved a personnel request from the IT department. Ms. Ray has announced her retirement towards the end of this year. And with 35 years, 35 years and in IT and then several last year as director. I don't know, Michelle, how many years you've been IT director? For a lot of those 35.
Yeah, I've always been. The title might have been different, but I was always the IT director, coordinator, whatever you want to call.
Okay, that's the title.
Mhm.
35 years. Supporting the county. I can't even. So we knew that to have a succession plan, someone who's been here that long. We knew, and in the budget, you approved a transitional IT director position, right? This is someone who would work under Michelle, learn the IT system, and be able to provide a smooth transition when she retired. The thought process was at the time, and has always been, that we have those we post for those positions. But since about October 12th, or right around there, we were forced to evacuate from the county building. Michelle has had a person who basically stepped right into that role and has been learning every day since. And it's stuck with us and got us. And that is, of course, Mr. Chris Beck. He is your title, our IT tech.
IT tech and web designer.
So he stayed. Maybe that. We thank you so much, and Michelle and I leadership believe that there's an external freeze on right now, but feel that Chris has stepped up to the degree that we don't want anyone else in that position. He stepped up, he learned it, he stuck with us. There's no one else who could outshine him at this point. This discussion came out in our meeting with IT about changes and what we need. And Michelle has not, asked to post this because she knew the position we were in. But knowing she's leaving in that budget meeting, leadership said, yes, go ahead and do quickly approved here. And we didn't want to do that in a vacuum. We wanted to be really transparent, open about that with the rest of the board. And so we're having that conversation with you. There's really no appropriate place on the agenda for that. So we said, let's do it in straight. So with that, Michelle handed out to you the specifics of, this is the employee form we use when there's a change. And the financial impact is there as it was shared at budget time, but it's maybe a lesser impact than we thought at budget time. Michelle, is there anything you want to add to that?
I appreciate being at the county for 35 years. It's been quite the roller coaster, and this last year's been a doozy. But I do feel Chris has stepped up to the plate. He wants a job. He's got a lot of good ideas to take forward, and I just feel he would make a wonderful IT director.
Any discussion, any questions? Process.
Yeah. Some of my other positions, we had mentoring programs. And there's always a little initial cost beginning, but if you want to hire within the organization. It's a pretty solid way to do it, so. The only time you might not want to go outside is if you want a completely different direction in that department. So it's always when you got department heads ready to retire, it's nice to have a mentor type of a position, so.
She's done a wonderful job for 35 years. Do you want to know a scary thought? I didn't have the title, but I was in charge of bringing computer age into Isabella County. My title was an overused Parks and Recreation Director, and I worked with an outside contractor, and the outside contractor didn't have any wish to come on to staff. But it's a fortunate thing, because I was ready to walk out of that duty, and we had someone very capable that came in and served the county very, very well over the years. Not enough compensation for the things that she did, and she's done some successional planning, and that's great for the county. Thank you. It is a scary thought, isn't it?
Must be one of the different direction things.
We still be using typewriters.
We'd still be using an 8088.
And so understand, yes, this is a best chance of success for the county. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, board, for supporting it. It's a smart thing to do.
And since this is budgeted, we don't need any board action, we just have this as an information piece then.
Right. Perfect.
Appreciate it.
What do you like?
Just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for Michelle for teaching me all she knows. I definitely have some big shoes to fill.
Okay, thank you very much. And appreciate the information, and Michelle, we wish you luck. I know you're gonna be through the rest of the year, but
Thank you.
echo the comments of the other commissioners who've done a fantastic job. We appreciate you, as well as Mr. Vasquez. We appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we move on to appointments to boards and commissions, and this evening, consider appointing Jim McBride to the Great Lakes Bay, Michigan Workforce Development Board for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2026, or until a successor is appointed. I've known Jim McBride as long as I've been in Mount Pleasant, because he used to be my neighbor when we first moved here. Fantastic gentleman. And he does have a letter of recommendation here from the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known Jim for a really long time too, and always liked working with him. He's passionate, energetic, and definitely considers the benefit to the county of what he's doing. I know he used to be a county commissioner, he used to be a state rep, so ins and outs of all kinds of situations, and I'm looking forward to working again in this role.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to committee reports, Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item is consider ratifying and placing on file the March 1st, 2024 invoice list in the amount of $286,770.72. March 8th, 2022 invoice list in the amount of $3,286,770.72. $238,554.38. And the adjustment list dated March 14, 2024. Going to the March 1st list, looking at the dollar amounts of $5,000 and above. These are all things that we've seen many, many times. You had some drain work that's being done. Sometimes that vendor changes, but otherwise we're paying our telephone bills, repairing vehicles, paying for supervision, court directed juveniles. So I didn't have any questions on any of those. Mr. Ingram.
Yeah, just with the one I was kind of watches on the chart here. I noticed that it was not in last month, so is that monthly, do you know, they fund that, or is that person not in the system anymore?
So are you talking about the March 1st?
The sheriff's, the Saginaw County, March 1st, and then we go to the next one, and there's no.
That is not all the time. Yeah, so that's just what is needed.
I suspect this youth probably has some tendency to violence or something, so has a special handling permits and. Any other questions on the list for March 1st? List tonight's session, and then we'll move on to the wrong order. The next one is the March 8th list. I see here we have, again, a number of bills, quite a big dollar amount for the bi-weekly payment. But almost $2.5 million is dealing with a payment for carbon block construction, the ongoing construction of the correctional facility sheriff's office. We have $353,000 payment to Quality Environmental for the asbestos abatement work that is ongoing. Other than that, we're looking down to things again that very familiar with. See if that jumps out on any of the larger bills. Any questions on the larger bills? I do have one question going down into the smaller bills. Page 11. And I don't know if this is just a mistake in assigning the payments under the clerk's department. I see Michelle Ray, Chris getting a payment, and there's several others, but they're assigned to printing and binding. And I'm wondering, is that a mistake? Should it be have been assigned to something else, or?
That's what printing and binding is, our huge election that covers all of our election fees.
Okay, so that was appropriate. Okay. Any other questions on any of the bills in this list? All right, then we'll move on to the adjustment list. Most of these are related to early payments to get a discount or to avoid a late fee. Sometimes there'll be some minor changes because sales tax was included and we're taking that off. I see there's a number of them here for tax settlement payment to just about all the local units of government. Is that something to do with the tax tribunal or some money that we held back and now being paid out? I see our treasurer.
It's
what?
you pay out stuff, you buy all the.
Oh, that is part of the delinquent tax, okay. So there's quite a few of those in there. Any questions on the adjustments? These adjustments are to the invoice list that you've already kind of looked at. Hearing nothing, we'll move these then to tonight's meeting for approval consideration. Next item. Consider approving fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 2024-04, second quarter budget adjustment for general fund. And authorize the board chair to sign the same. Administrator Frost, if you would mind.
Absolutely. So we don't have too much going on in general fund. On this amendment, we're basically increasing our fund balance. We're adding to fund balance by almost $80,000 is the big story here. Where that comes from, we are basically increasing the use of our ARPA dollars. This board has obligated the remaining just over $2 million that was not yet obligated of the ARPA dollars to the county building HVAC project. That means anything that we have to do to then complete the HVAC project can be paid with ARPA funds. So that's an in and an out because we're bringing in more ARPA dollars and we're spending those ARPA dollars, right? So it's increasing revenues, it's increasing expenditures. As we talked about at Finance Committee, it's really important to remember, right now we have about a $32 million budget. What is this gonna do to that? It's make it a $34 million budget because we're adding a couple more million of expenses and revenues. So I just want you to remember that, but it is a net zero. The same with the Homeland Security grant. We're increasing revenues by 21,000, we're increasing expenses by 21,000. So it's a wash, but we're increasing that overall budget and that's why it comes to you. The same thing for the DTE solar, special use permit site plan review escrow, right? We bring in an escrow just over 50,000 revenue. We have a similar expenditure so that it's a net zero. So why are we adding to fund balance? The couple of things that are happening there, you'll see a transfer in of just over 29,000. That's for some funds that you'll see in the next budget amendment that we're closing out. We're closing out those funds and transferring the balance into general fund because the original amounts of money in those funds came from general fund and we're closing out those funds. So we're bringing that balance into general fund of 29,000 and we're offsetting that by an expense you see down below, an increase of almost 11,000, some current dues and subscriptions that we forgot to budget for the board. So all told, that's about an $18,000 net positive, or with all these changes, you're adding 18,000 almost into your fund balance. Are there any questions about general fund budget adjustment?
And should note in committee, I think we're doing a much better job. I know we're doing a much better job of doing these budget adjustments as we. But it was identified that we do have to make some additional ones. We're paying for the asbestos abatement and we haven't moved monies around to cover those costs.
This will accomplish that. We have indeed, you're actually absolutely correct. We have been paying the bills to the contractor already. We should have done this budget amendment before we paid those bills, right? Because even though this board approved that contract, it didn't approve a budget, pay the monies. So this is that other step makes us something. If you approve it to him.
And we do thank the people that make us, keep us on our toes. Any other questions on adjustments to the general fund? All right, we'll move this over to consideration to the meeting. All right. Next item, consider approving fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 2024-05, second quarter budget adjustments for other funds and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
So this is for funds other than general fund, and this whole thing is just accomplishing and increasing revenues and increasing expenditures by the same amount. So it's a big, kind of a big net zero, but we'll walk through what those are. We are decreasing fund balance in the Register of Deeds automation fund by $5,000, so she can perform several new projects, actually. So an increase of expenditures of 5,000 is offset. We're increasing the use of fund balance from the tribal fund contribution from our 2% awards. And down below, you'll see 4 places where that $418,000 is going. The sheriff's office, emergency management, and the landfill. So these are past 2% grants that they are expending the monies now. So we didn't know at budget time they were going to expend all of that necessarily. So we're moving the monies received from tribal in, out of the fund balance, budgeting it so that they can do those projects. Mission on Aging, same type of thing. You'll see 5,900 being decreased from their fund balance and 5,900 being expend, actually a grant expenditure that they weren't able to get done last year, I believe. The remaining two are Veterans Relief Fund and Veterans Trust Fund. These are the two funds we are closing out. Those funds originated from general fund dollars. And that's why you saw in the general fund budget that they're actually getting transferred into the general fund. So you see an increase of transfer to other funds. Here, we're decreasing fund balance, increasing those expenditures, zeroing those funds out, bringing it back to the general fund. And we're doing that because for the last couple of years, we've budgeted for these expenses in general fund instead of those outside funds. What was happening was every year in general fund, we would appropriate in the budget certain amount to state veterans relief. It wouldn't get expended, it would sit there in the next year, appropriate our funds to the. So we're just build up in there because certain thing. So we do account for that now in general fund as well as the veterans funds. So those funds can be, those we make sure with the auditors, and that's what's happening. Are there any questions? Either.
The only thing I want to bring up again in committee, registered deeds, Karen Jackson came before us, and that $5,000 is to cover a couple of projects that are going to be conducted out of her department. But apparently Isabella County was selected for the county in the state of Michigan to take a look at old deeds and covenants that were discriminatory towards various populations. And the two examples she brought up was they were discriminatory potentially to the Polish and to the Polish and the Irish. So being 100% Polish, I'm trying to get hold of my deed 39 years ago and see if there was anything in it that maybe I could do some kind of thing. But I think it's interesting that out-of-state university going to study that. Karen, I don't know if you want to come up and you'll have to let me know if I'm doing any dollar payments for discrimination.
If you're illegal, no, those restrictive covenants are illegal. But they're still out there, unfortunately. No, it's Stanford University Law School, it's a fellowship. They approached me wanting to do a they have an AI tool that they have developed, and it can read the old handwritten documents, not real well yet. And that's what they wanted our documents for, because we have our document back online. We have the digital images all the way back. And so they wanted to use those documents in order to further develop this tool. Their end game is to take this information, and it was the Germans that they also, we in Isabella County started discriminating against originally were the Polish and the Germans. But they discovered that right away, but what they're trying to do is kind of build a history that will work from Isabella County on out. What they're trying to do is figure out how these discriminatory covenants have affected the way that land is used today. So that's basically their end game.
It'll be an interesting study after it's all done.
Yeah.
And I don't make light of any kind of discrimination against anybody. It's just, you just don't think about things that happened in the past.
Michigan has a way of discharging restrictive covenants now on the books. There's a link on our website. Michigan State University, there's a individual there who put out an article that is excellent. If you get a chance, go out and read that. It explains the whole process, how to do that. Obviously, in our line of work, we can't give anybody an opinion or tell anybody how to do that. And this puts all the information out there, also gives MSU a little plug, puts it out there for them Awesome. Chris put that information out there in a really great format so that someone can just click that, go right to that information and get it. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Questions on the adjustment list for the adjustment list, the changes. Hearing none, we'll move this then for consideration at tonight's meeting. Mr. Chairman, that does complete the work of the administration.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 items for today. First, I'll consider approving the 2024 agreement between the County of Isabella County Sheriff's Office and the Village of Lake Isabella for Marine Patrol Services and authorize Board first to sign the same. This is an agreement we've seen before. Same agreement, pretty much. Dates are changed, wage adjustments, and there is one major additions to it, and in section 5, 5.02.1, it addresses our budgetary concerns, and I probably should just read it, explain it the best, and section which is new added on, but notwithstanding anything to the contrary, in this agreement, the county and the sheriff's office obligations under this agreement are subject to the appropriations by the Isabella County Board of Commissioners. For the Sheriff's Road Patrol Services, this agreement shall be null and void in the event that the Sheriff's Road Patrol deputies are not employed by the county and the Sheriff's Office due to budget constraints. So because we're in uncertain times right now on the budget, this was added to the agreement that we've seen for probably ever since I've been. So, Sheriff, would you like to add anything to that?
Nope, you got it 100% correct.
Boy, you better write that down. Make a note, what day? Is there any questions to that? I know, like I said, we've seen the agreement before. Needed to be added in there. Seeing none, we'll move this forward to tonight's business session. Similar, item number 2, which is similar agreement, is considering improvement agreement between the County of Isabella County Sheriff's Office and the Isabella County Youth Farm Fair for patrol services during the 2024 Isabella County Youth Farm Fair, and authorizing board chairperson to sign the same agreement, and the same sort of language was added in 1.02 in that contract. So basically the only changes is the dates and the wage adjustments. I know it's always been very popular in the sheriff out at the fair, and they do a great job out there. So any questions for the sheriff? You'd like to add anything, Sheriff?
2 for 2. I'm gonna quit coming.
Raising the bar pretty high, yeah. So anyways, there isn't any questions. We'll move that forward to tonight's session.
All right, third item, consider adopting resolution 2024-05 to approve Michigan Public Safety Communication System Integration. Now there is board chair to sign. So we approved this Michigan Public Safety Communication Systems Integration Agreement at the last board commission meeting, but it turns out they don't just need approval of the resolution of the board. So this outlines the resolution.
So this was a lengthy email chain, and during that email chain, this resolution requested that we missed it as we went back and forth with the corporate attorney to make sure everything was correct on our end. So it's a pretty simple resolution. They just they've already approved it. They just need a resolution to make it official on their end for the requests. And it's not really a whole lot in the resolution.
And are there any questions about the resolution?
3 for 3.
All right, we'll move this on to the regular session tonight.
And Mr. Chairman, that completes the work of the Criminal Justice County Affairs Committee.
Thank you, commissioners, and that brings us down to Human Resources and Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first item is consider approving the 2024 A&D Home Health Care Incorporated waiver contract and authorize the board chair to sign the same. We have Jennifer Crawford, our Director of Commission on Aging, here to give us a load. Hi.
So waiver program is a program that's for individuals who qualify for a higher level of care, so they would qualify for nursing home placement. And individuals who do qualify for that, that's obviously our, maybe you didn't know, but that is a service that's more than we're able to provide care for. So there are 2 waiver providers that provide that service in our areas. Region 7 Agency on Aging is one, which we work with them, and then A&D Home Health Care is the other. And so with both of those agencies, when they have clients that live in our county, there are times when they may reach out to us and say, we have this client who could utilize help with homemaking or meals, for example. And so then that's something that we can step up and help provide that service to those individuals in our county, but they would still remain under their care. So this is the contract with A&D Home Health Care, and would be for us to provide meals to their waiver clients. We do currently provide meals right now to 4 clients, and we're reimbursed at about $330 a month. So it's pretty substantial, and we're still able to provide those home delivered meals to folks in our county who could benefit from them. And this contract is an 18-month contract. This is the first one that I've seen since I've been here, honestly, with A&D. So I think it would be great for us to have this in place. And I did send it to legal before bringing you as well.
So this is a collaboration, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we work with them hand in hand. They would send referrals to us. And then if we're able to provide the service, then we can do that. As of right now, we have no waiting list for home delivered meals, so we're able to take on those clients for them.
Great. Any questions or comments on this item, commissioners? Seeing and hearing none, we'll put this on the agenda for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, our second item, consider approving reorganization of the material recovery facility, eliminating a part-time curbside roof-off driver position at a non-union pay grade 8 and adding a full-time education grant writing and reporting coordinator at a non-union pay grade 10, effective immediately, and authorize the board to sign.
Good evening, everybody. Jake had prior obligations. He was at the Board of Commissioners meeting in Gratiot County. So you get me today, Operations Supervisor Tierney speak. We have had a position open since June of last year. For this reason, and in light of the company's current financial position, we have been reevaluating operations to make sure we are running as efficiently as possible while also trying to find ways to generate revenue. One of the ways we can accomplish this is by eliminating a position and creating a position that has the potential to not only fund itself, but to pull in funding throughout the county as a whole. With the amount of time it takes with researching, writing, and reporting on grants, it's almost impossible to keep up with day-to-day operations as well as the materials management planning. With the amount of grants that are available, we don't want to miss out on an opportunity to secure funding while also moving forward with improvements that will lead to a cost savings to the residents in Isabella and surrounding counties. While researching grants, this position will forward any pertinent information to the department if grant funds are available. With the mandates to recycling infrastructure from the state and federal levels, this position will put Isabella County in compliance with the mandated MMPs in regard to the education portion. With this position falling into that education portion of the materials management plans, that will allow us to use the 50 cents per capita funds that will be made available once the notice of intent is sent from the commissioners and a material management planning committee is established. These funds will need to be used towards education and outreach. We are currently looking at a recycling app that will help with some of the education, but if we solely rely on the app, then we aren't doing the outreach we should. For example, we have school outreach, local clubs, presentations, and speaking engagements. We are already budgeted for the driving position for fiscal year 24. Using the funding available through the remainder of the year from this position, as well as the funds with the material management plan, there will be no financial impact for fiscal year 24. This position would possibly need to be reevaluated year over year beyond fiscal year 24, and continuation would be contingent on grant funding brought in, while also taking into consideration the education portion as mandated through the state and would need to be placed at a minimum at a part-time education position. We've attached 3 job descriptions that compare to what it is that we are asking for in this position for your guys' review to see where that position should be scored at, and just to show how it compares to what we're asking for in the job description we provided. Any questions?
Now, this is, gonna be really handy in the fact that we're bringing other companies into this project. And trying to get as many dollars as we can, plus, we're saying that also, we look at, take this person and also look at clear rates in the.
Yeah, so while they're researching that funding and grants, they put forward that information to the appropriate department within the county. There are so many grants out there available right now. And one of our last ad hoc committee meetings, it was pointed out to us from one of the administrator controllers from another county that there are grants available through General Mills, through Ice Mountain. I mean, there's too many for me to remember off the top of my head, but there are a lot out there available, and it just, we're not even touching a fraction of what's the funds that are out there and available. And with the county being in the position that it's in, it's a good opportunity to use this.
Yes, sure.
Oh. You know, I think this would be a good opportunity to be a little creative. When we're deciding how we want to do this, is to tie it to incentive pay and put a cap on there, so for motivation, I know some of the jobs that had incentive pays really work well, so with the cap on there, but for motivation and bringing money in, new money into the county, to have new money to put some incentive pays on there. So I found out those could be really important motivators, so something to consider when you're looking at this position. I think it would be a few places that we could actually do something like that to be a little creative.
The other thing I was gonna mention is, it's been 10 years since I was writing grants for Clinton County, but I have written some grants for some of the townships that I represent. But I know there's 2 excellent resources, and I don't know what the addresses are right now, but one is free. That you can get a list of federal, you go onto the site, you can research for federal grants. And there's another one, it's a subscription base, but you can go on again and then research all of the other foundations and, industrial grants that are out there. 2 excellent resources to see. I do like too the educational function. I know I'm an avid recycler, and I get out there and I get so disappointed when I look into some of those bins and find trash. And I don't think it's purposely put out there. Maybe some of it is, but I think we need to educate our public better on what we're taking, so that we don't have to pay that $40,000-$60,000 a year to get rid of non-recyclable trash that we have to deal with. So I think it's a good idea.
I think those MMPs require some educational component, don't they?
Yeah, there is. So, and that's where that per capita money comes into play. We have to use some of that funding for education and outreach. And like I said, we're looking into some other things. I mentioned the Recycle app. It is a really handy tool to have, and the gentleman that we are talking to that will hopefully be able to bring to another meeting to give a presentation to everybody. He said we're doing the right thing by researching it now and trying to implement something like this now with the changes that are coming to the facility and the materials management plans. It's really gonna help us cut down on the amount of residual that we would be bringing into the facility. And the app is a really handy tool to have. It's really interesting. I don't know if some of you are familiar with some of the newer phones that has that lens on it when you take the photos, where you can look up what that item is, but the app kind of has the same thing, so.
Just a comment, but Charity, thanks for bringing this forward. This is really great proposal. I'm thrilled to have a grant writer on staff at the county, looking at all available grants, not only for the MERV, but for the other areas as well. So, and apparently we didn't need that part-time curbside rollout driver because you've done without it since last June, so.
Yeah.
Very creative, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That forward.
Okay, our last item is consider approving the Mid-State Health Network Intergovernmental Agreement for 2024 Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Board Terms and Conditions, and authorize the board chair to sign the same. As you probably know, I'm a representative to this board, and it has 21 counties. It's called Region 5. The term is from September 24th to August 27th. And it's when you are on that board, you have the third. And that's so this has to be, the contract is between the county and the Michigan, according to the Michigan Mental Health Code, the Michigan Transfer of Functions and Responsibilities. It's a intergovernmental agreement, like the ones we are going to have with the type of agreements that we're going to have with the counties that have been working. And the counties include Aranac, Bay, Clare, Clinton, Gladwin, Gratiot, Hillsdale, Huron, Hingham, Ionia, Isabella, Jackson, Acosta, Midland, Montcalm, Waco, Oak, Seacoast, Saginaw, Shiawassee, Steve, Tuscola. And it's always good to meet the other colleagues of ours as commissioners. And I was looking at a report, and they usually give this, we meet about every 3 months, and they compile a report on all the problem drugs, and it's quite interesting to see which ones are different and which are the same. They have which is the most problematic, and they can all be different. It's quite interesting to see how they vary and how they vary. Go ahead.
So Mid-State Health also administers the PA2 funds that are sent to them that can come back for grants to local providers to deal with substance abuse, alcohol, tobacco, drugs. Very valuable program, and the local providers for these services can ask for the grants, and they may get a portion of the county's PA2 funds that are held specifically for Isabella County and specifically for those other counties. But then that organization also tries to supplement with Medicaid, Medicare, other state, federal funds that might be available for dealing with the addictions that we currently have in various types. So then very good payback to the county over the years. And they have professionals that can really go in and take a look at these grant applications. So the monies that are being requested are spent wisely.
Yeah, one of the services that they're going to provide, and they already have one in Saginaw, is a treatment program. And we were told at the last meeting that there's going to be, it's something like opioid home treatment or something like that. It's not really a home, but it's wraparound. And one of those is coming to our federal fleet real soon. I think they're going to put them out to about 6 different counties. And that's really definitely something that we need. So. I just saw this article, I think it was, well, yeah, it was all about how the northern part of Michigan is having really big problems, substance abuse, and they're having a hard time coming up with the money to meet the need of that for treatment. So. Questions or comments? Seeing here, none, this will be next this evening. And that concludes the work of the Human Resources and Public Works. Chair, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, thank you very much. We don't have any intergovernmental affairs, no administrator controller issues, no unfinished business. Under new business, we have several 2% grant requests. And we've got several department directors. Would like to come up and speak to them, but the first one is a Commission on Aging requesting $528,112. Director.
So we have been very fortunate, Commission on Aging, for the generosity of the Saginaw Triple Indian Tribe. Since 1995, we've received over $10 million. $10,022,789 to be exact, just incredible. We're so thankful for that. Many years ago, they did make a request to the previous director that with the Commission on Aging, we submit the exact same application for both cycles within a year. So this application you see before you right now will be the exact same one that we submit again in the fall. And then whatever, if we're fortunate enough to receive any awards in either cycle, it'll be combined. And then they'll both be used in fiscal year 24. So with our application, it is a collaborative effort. It's all of the Commission on Aging, so all of our programs are represented in this application. And so we utilize, as opposed to doing an application for a project, we request their support in all of our different program areas, not to be used for administrative costs, but to actually impact our programs and services that we provide to older adults. That is our application.
I'll just comment that this over $10 million since 1996, but what you and your predecessor have done here is turn that into services for seniors. With the use of some paid staff and a whole lot of volunteers.
Absolutely, without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
That's right. Thank you. Next one is material recovery facility requesting $150,000 for recurring grants for the recycling program.
Yeah, so every spring and every fall, or the same as Commission on Aging, we ask for the same amount, $150,000 for a total of $300,000 a year. We too are very grateful for the great working relationship that we have with the tribe, and I don't know the amount that we've gotten over the years, but I can tell you it's been quite a bit. They're very supportive of the program, and yeah, it's pretty much all I have.
So my understanding, looking at the application, is it's also going to be repeated in the fall. So
Yeah, we're just gonna
300,000.
Yeah, 150,000 in the spring, 150,000 in the fall. That's what we're asking. Yeah.
Very good, thank you. The next one is Humane Animal Treatment Society requesting $16,044 for animal shelter flooring renovation, and I don't know, we don't have one here to speak to that.
Amanda had a meeting tonight, and
That's-
was unable to attend.
That's-
I could be really quick to
Sure.
the application, just over 60,000 to Foxy, the back dog kennel, the quarantine kennel. Floors, it's something that we do get inspected by the Department of Agriculture each year, and there can't be, it has to be, there has to be integrity to that service. Areas where it's unpainted, and you can imagine the animals are pretty rough on the wall paint, so epoxy is the way to go. It was something we in our capital improvement plan this year, but with our finances, maybe not able to do that, and so it's offered to write a 2%.
Good. The next one would be emergency management 911 requesting $99,275 for phase 3 of the automatic external defibrillator AED project Heart Saver. Do we have Griffiths?
We do not. I think he's away at training right now, so if you've been asleep, you haven't heard about phase 1 or phase 2. So hopefully you understand about phase 3. AEDs are amazing. They will start barking on the wall and say, someone has called 911 a block away and needs me, please take me to them. Unbelievable, right? When you call 911, they will know where the AEDs are at. Unbelievable. Phase 3, let's get some more out there. I think the request for more.
100.
Yes.
Like to place those in various buildings. Yeah. And then the next one, also emergency management 9 costing $66,000 for outdoor siren replacement. Tornado siren at the hill. Sheriff, you want to speak to them?
Oh, great. No, please.
Just remind Mark that he now owes me one. So the siren's been around in the county for a long time. They alert on several different things. The biggest thing is bad weather. 2 of them, one is at the Tribal Emergency Services Building at Courthouse there at Broadway and Leeton. The other one's at the tribal campgrounds. Both of them are down. One of them was mechanic, one was hit by lightning. So these funds would be to get those back operational for the summer season as quickly as possible.
How many sirens are in the county?
I think there's 12 to 14 somewhere. Oh. Yeah, they're scattered all the way around. They tried to put them near populated areas like villages and so forth, but also near the parks and rec areas so where people might not get notified.
Okay.
So that 66,000 will cover both of those?
I think it'll cover both and leave a little bit for maintenance on some other ones as well. Sometimes the batteries go bad and different things. So it does cover those 2 and a little bit of maintenance for some others.
Very good. Okay, the next one, the sheriff's office requesting $790 for canine vaccination clinic.
So I've had animal control under my authority now for a little over a year and a half. One of the things that, having the animal control officer with me has mentioned several times is that, when he's out addressing no license issues, which is a requirement, a lot of people talk about not being able to afford the vaccinations and the licenses. So this program, and my understanding they used to do this, but had gotten away from it. So this program, basically, we're looking to run 2 clinics in the county, one on the east side of the county, maybe partnering with the tribe, and then one on the west side of the county where the vaccinations would be free. We've engaged Doc Toll, and he's willing to send a couple of reps there and to make that happen. And then we'll have our records clerks right there on the team ready to issue the dog tag. So basically, they just have to buy your dog tag and get your vaccinations for free, and we can resolve some of that hardship for some of these folks.
Sounds good. Thank you. The next one then would be sheriff's office requesting $12,760.80 for corrections key control.
So this is a device, they've been around for a while. We've never had one. We've had a couple of recent issues. And just to be very clear, we have hard keys and the keys were left where they shouldn't have been a couple times. These keys do not open exterior doors. They do not allow inmates to leave, anything like that. But they would allow, access to areas for inmates and different things that they shouldn't if they were, discovered. And it was just, you know, the staff was busy, it was lunchtime type thing, you know, they got a cart and walk away type thing. So this, key control box basically would utilize our swipe cards that we access all of our doors now. It would, know which employee has which key when they checked it out. And at the end of their shift, it'll send us an alert that that key is now missing if it didn't get returned back to that box, which then we can start making some calls and figure out where them keys are at. Works well. In fact, one of the sergeants on the road today said, you know, something about some car keys missing because the guys will forget to take them home or whatever. So this will solve that issue for us a little bit, control the keys a little better. If a corrections officer swipes it, it'll unlock a specific set of keys that they're only able to have versus a lieutenant or myself or whatever. So really does kind of control it. Gratiot County just put this same box into their facility and they're having good success with it.
Okay. So the new facility, will all the doors have card readers or some of them have actual?
We have a lot more, but there is hard keys for the jail and the detention areas. In fact, I would never have thought that it would have been such a heavy lift, but there was 7 meetings, including keys. So each door has its own layer level and who should have it. So those keys are pretty protected, and I have in my possession now for the new facility. But we will utilize this box. We'll transfer it into our radio room so that unit will come right with us and continue to function in the new facility as well.
Great. Any comments, questions? All right, the next one then is Sheriff's Office requesting $70,202 for road patrol body worn cameras.
This is a frustrating one for me. We received some grants back in 2018, 2019 from others in regards to body worn cameras. When we went to them, they've been instrumental. And it's that same old story where when you give a police officer new equipment, they get a little nervous about it, but now they want them, right? They know the value into them, and they have worked very well for us. They've done some very positive things in our community and built that trust. Unfortunately, Motorola, even though the ones we have are work dogs, I don't think we've had one go down for maintenance, maybe one if any, last 5 years, but they're phasing them out. The cloud software where it's at, they're changing and they can't update it. That's, I think, a business trip, basically, you know, just want you to come back for a little more, right? So, long story short, they're gonna phase them out midsummer. I do not want to operate without them. I think it's a risk we do not want to take any longer. The upgrade of the new model is a WatchGuard product. Unfortunately, Motorola purchased it, so I'm not sure if I'll be back in 5 years with the same request. We'll see how it goes. WatchGuard is a great product. We have them in our in-car cameras. All of our cars have those. If you remember back a little while ago, about a year, maybe 2 years now, our correction staff all moved to body cams. They are WatchGuard units. So it just makes sense to stay with that WatchGuard product. And they'll do us very well. So we just need to upgrade by midsummer and so we can keep them operational.
I'm a firm believer in body worn cameras, and I remember when we got those in 2018.
Yeah. We've had some major cases that have been very valuable in. We've had citizen complaints they've been very valuable in. We've had times where we provided additional training and counseling to staff, based on video footage, and so it's an all around good process to have. Every agency in the county now has them. The city of Mount Pleasant is coming on board here shortly with them, so we certainly enjoy having them. Like I said, some of those things now the deputies, they don't want to go out without them anymore because they just know it's good. And it's evidentiary. It helps a ton, for the evidence. So I'm not sure if the prosecutor likes to view like hours of video, but providing lots of videos. But it works well. We certainly don't want to operate without them.
I think it protects, people on both sides of that, too.
Absolutely. And it builds trust, it's just, we get very few complaints and we sit down and watch the video together and we come to the resolution. So it works very well.
Thank you. The next one would be Isabel Conservation District requesting $134,000 for the most hazardous waste clean sweep program. Commissioner, do you want to speak to this one?
I will take this one. We've seen this before. It's been a very successful program. What I'd like to comment on is that as we're developing a regional material management plan, being able to talk with a lot of the other counties, it's about 6 that confirmed right now that they all have programs, and this will all be part of that plan, but the ability to maybe coordinate some of them and actually maybe get bigger grants maybe for the state there's opportunities there. But eventually, when we get the plan together, these all be rolled in. That's will be part of our plan that when we complete.
Yes, sir.
Is this just specifically for the hazardous waste? Is it also the electronic waste, the tires included in this, or?
Tires will be separate. They usually do. I'm not sure why they didn't put the electronic. Usually they've been running them together.
I don't know if anybody's ever been out to the fairgrounds. Collection is always a lot of people. You can imagine all the stuff that they're getting rid of that should be processed and disposed of properly. Otherwise, if you walk to somebody's landfill, it'd be leaching in the groundwater table. And like, so I'm very supportive of this particular application and that program.
Or in my case, sitting in someone's shed for a long time. Took it out there and got rid of it. Okay, the next one then would be Isabella County Drain Commission requesting $275,000 for the Wademan Mill Pond Dam repair and lake level order update, Mr. How you doing, sir?
You got two people on the line here.
Okay.
Luke O'Brien and Amanda now, the attorney.
Good evening. Yeah, so we presented on the Wademan Mill Pond and the other legal lake levels in Isabella County last month. As you may recall, the most recent dam inspection that was done on the Wademan Mill Pond found some issues with seepage. There's an earthen embankment that we believe was last worked on in the 1970s. Hasn't really had any maintenance done to it since then, and it's showing some issues. This is something that needs to be addressed here at some point, and so the grant application is for the engineering and legal fees to find a solution and get it bid out. This would include surveying. There's some issues with easements. There are 4 properties that we don't believe have the county has legal access to those properties. They're part of the dam. It includes any permitting, the conceptual, preliminary, final design, bid letting, and then the process to get the special assessment district updated. There's some engineering and legal fees that have to go into that. We have to go to court to update the special assessment district. And then there are some updates that may need to be done to the legal lake level order, which has to be done in circuit court as well. So we're trying to get the process started on this. The expenses that are generated through the process, if we aren't able to obtain grant funds through the 2% grant, the expenses would need to be paid by the residents of the special assessment district. We can also look for additional funds. There's a Eagle grant that we plan to apply for in the fall. Once we have a plan with a design and a project that's bid out, a plan to do the improvement. That grant is highly competitive though, so we're trying to tap into as many sources as we can here. So that's what the application is for. Amanda, is there anything to add that I missed?
I think you mentioned this, Luke, but just to clarify, so what we're asking for now is basically to get us through the court hearings, through the setting up a district, through the preliminary engineering to get to a point that an actual project could be bid. So it's all of these preliminary costs to get to that point. And so then, once a project is bid out, like Luke said, we could look at additional grants or reapplying for this grant. But at this time, we're only asking to get to that point where we can bid a project.
Question.
So if you don't get the tribal grant, then you have to wait for the designation of the assessment district and make the assessment, then move on to repairs. Is that correct? Is that the other avenue if you don't get the grant? And how many, I don't know, maybe you haven't determined yet, how many property owners are around Mill Pond that would benefit and would be part of that district?
So we haven't determined how many properties are in the district. We do know that it's not a large number. So we do need to go through the process to figure out who has access to the lake. Benefit is based on legal access, so either to the property, so it's either a front lot on the lake, or they have some sort of easement or dedicated access to the lake. So that's typically how the special assessment districts are set up for lake levels. So as part of this, we need to determine that. When the last project was done back in 2000, the tribe paid for that project. And so that's why there isn't a current special assessment district in place for this, because they paid for that last work, and then money that's been left over has funded the required inspections that are every 3 years. At this point, the fund balance is about out, and obviously we need to do some work on the dam.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Willoughby. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next is one that was just submitted. Putting it time to make our agenda, but we added it to the agenda. It's one for the prosecuting attorney. Prosecuting attorney Barbary, speak to this one.
Good evening, and I appreciate your guys' willingness to allow this request to come in at such the 11th hour. The reason for the tardiness on the request was candidly until yesterday afternoon, I wasn't aware that it was going to be necessary. In our initial budget meetings yesterday, became aware that we would likely be losing a position in our office. That was the ARPA funded senior assistant prosecuting attorney position. When that position came about 3 years ago, it was due to the fact that the MIDC was receiving an additional attorney. And at that time, we also received an additional attorney. Prior administration indicated that they would be creative in the funding for that position and paying for it through ARPA dollars. Initially, where the understanding would be that when the ARPA fund ran out, hopefully the county would then come in and assume that liability with general fund dollars. Unfortunately, I was made aware that probably will not be the case, due to the constraints placed on the county as a result of the village effort. Based on that information yesterday, that is the basis for this request today. The dollar amount is $109,000. That covers the entirety of the senior assistant salary for 1 year. My hope is that in that amount of time, that would give us an opportunity to find additional funding sources, pursue other grant opportunities, maybe to shuffle things around to be able to afford to keep that attorney on staff for in the future. The reality is that currently we're down an attorney already, and we have an attorney retiring in May. Then we'll be based on this in October, be down an additional attorney. And granted, there's some potential to shuffle things around. We're not having great success filling positions at that professional level. And I think it's the result of a lot of factors, and it's security, stability. Those things are certainly things that I think people are looking at, understandably so. And that's a factor in our struggle to find attorneys. So, I'm aware of the realities that the county's facing, but it puts us in a really difficult position to have to be down 2 attorneys. We have 4 judges and 3 magistrates, and it's rare that we would ever be asked to cover every single courtroom at one time. But the constraints on our office, not having someone in the office and having the ability to have people in the courtrooms is a problem. When I started, we were down to 4. We lost 2 to one to retirement and 1 to the judicial position when he was elected. And we operated that way for a while. We tried to find people, and it wasn't easy. We filled those positions over time, got up to 6, and then we had an additional position added. We really struggled to ever have full staff. That's why in 2022, we were $197,000 under our anticipated budget. And last year, roughly $125,000 under our anticipated budget. So those are the issues that we're facing, and that's the basis for the request. I think that it'll benefit everybody. We prosecute a significant number of cases that relate to tribal police department reports. And we think this will directly benefit the tribe and the community at large by making those locations, the casino, the resort, the summer concert series, things of that nature, desirable locations, and trying to pursue criminal complaints and protect victims at those destinations.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barbary. With that, before we go into the closed sessions, general public comments. Yep, yes, sir.
Close to feel hard.
Well, I don't know where to start. I only got 3 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, don't get it till. Well, I went with this thing here. I would like to congratulate 989-408-7468. They put it together, did a hell of a nice job bringing people together to try and make some sense out of what you guys been doing. I don't know what your fund balance is. I don't know what your the other person there that does your accounting for you, comes into your auditors. You guys should have been aware of that. You guys have been here long enough to know what's going on. And you bit off more than you can chew. And the jail thing there, that was way overboard. I asked for a vote on it, never got it, did I, Jerry? Jerry? Okay, never, don't have to answer. And then we get in Trenton, they can take off the road patrols. So, and I'd like to commend that Todd Shorley for coming up and speaking, what most of us people are thinking about. And they received $345,518.10 to receive in payment from Michigan Department of Treasury. I say put it into the road patrol. That way you won't have to bring it up for a road patrol back in next November's thing. But that's about it in a nutshell. I don't know what else to tell you. If you guys would like to resign, I don't have no problem with it. You can probably talk to Mindy and she'd be glad to take your resignation. And the same thing with the knee jerk. Going to Luxor's funeral home there. I don't know why you want people to go to a funeral home to do county business. I'm gonna get there quick enough. I don't wanna get there any quicker than I have to see other people pass away. Thank you.
Anyone else for general public
Thank you.
comment?
Young man.
Okay. Anyone else?
You can have your regular stuff.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
When the business
This is. Yeah. Okay, so next up is a closed session. We're going to consider entering into a closed session under Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act to discuss collective bargaining agreement strategies. So
So,
and it's supported. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Commissioner Delzinski.
Yes.
Commissioner Engler.
Yes.
Commissioner Marino.
Yeah.
Commissioner Swaney.
Yes.
Commissioner Hope.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so everybody has to take their mics down. Yep. And I've got to unjoin, leave computer.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
So. I move that we enter into closed session under section 8E of the Open Meetings Act to consult with the attorney regarding insulin pricing litigation.
Support.
Supported to move. Under section 8E of the attorney regarding insulin pricing litigation. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for voting. I sure did. I asked for him ahead of time.
You need any of this other stuff back? Got it. You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell she was this about?
I will. Are we in the next meeting? No, yeah. Okay.
Send that. Send that. I'm just sending that other one. There it is. We gotta leave this.
Nope, you are.
Okay, we're back.
We're all back in, so we
Okay.
are recording and live streaming, all the
Green
conversations.
Commissioner's 2% request is scratched off here.
Because it was,
It's on there twice.
Oh,
It's on there
My
twice.
apologies.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
You
So
can-
we are back. We're all set, Michelle? Okay, we're back in regular session. Sorry for the delay, folks. Sometimes these take a while. And we've already done general public comment. Announcements, commissioners, any announcements? Hearing no announcements, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:17. We'll take a short break and we'll come back for the regular session.